Everyone, I teased this video this morning and I thought it was ready to go. I thought I tried to record right after I said that, and I still had questions. Fundamentally, who are these guys? And I got a few answers. So I'm glad I didn't publish it this morning. And well, here we go. If you haven't heard about this, this was breaking late last night after Justin Trudeau was an hour and a half late for his own afternoon rally. It was supposed to start at 5 o'clock, maybe 4:30, and kind of be wrapping up by 6 o'clock, but Justin Trudeau wasn't on the stage. Here's Frank Gunn, and he says, quote, "A vest bulges through the jacket of Liberal leader Justin Trudeau at a campaign rally in Mississauga, Ontario. The rally was delayed for 90 minutes for a security issue. And this was Trudeau's biggest crowd of the campaign. The Liberal people last night on Twitter were saying there's 2,000 people here. And they were complaining because Trudeau was late and there was no reason given by the campaign. So security issue, packed venue, very interesting, right? Here's Frank Gunn again, and he says, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau is surrounded by tactical police as he arrives for a rally in Mississauga, Ontario. The rally was delayed for 90 minutes due to a security issue. There were a lot of people asking who these guys were. The crest is garnering a lot of interest, and most people believe that Justin Trudeau's personal security is handled by the RCMP. I believe that too. And while people were looking to compare RCMP crests, this is somebody saying, and I don't have the Twitter account name. It doesn't matter. This Twitter account is saying, I just Googled RCMP crests and none of the images look like this. Who are these guys? And it turns out they're not RCMP. Here's the Press Corps CA, and I've never heard of these people either, but this is the best answer I've found so far bandying around Twitter. Ezra Levent's got a 30 or 20, at least 23 tweet thread talking about this, but this is the best answer I've had so far. So here's Press Corps tweeting, quote, "All major medias are confirming Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau donned a bulletproof vest for an election campaign rally on Saturday. I can confirm that his security detail are JTF2, Canada's NATO Gladio. Canada's NATO Gladio was formed when the RCMP CERT refused to be Gladio." And I don't know what Gladio means. I was looking up the whole thing, but I found out who the JTF2 is, and this is an article from the Globe and Mail from December 2010, and it says, "Silent Killers, Secrecy, Security, and JTF2. They are Canada's most elite troops, the faceless soldiers who go to places they won't name to complete missions they won't talk about. Hailed as a world-class special operations unit for missions abroad while facing mounting criticism at home, Joint Task Force 2 remains a shadowy counterterrorism force about which little concrete can be said, save for the fact that observers are clamoring more than ever to lift the veil on the ultra-secret of units operations." And it's like, this was a decade ago, right? 9 years ago. So not much more is known. Here's the Wikipedia page for the Joint Task Force 2, and I've just highlighted Vice Admiral Dean McFadden also confirmed that JTF2 would take a role in securing the 2010 Winter Olympics and 2010 Winter Paralympics. JTF2 has also acted as bodyguards to Canadians traveling abroad, but not domestically. Typically, that's reserved for like RCMP, isn't it? That's as far as I know. Anyway, back to this. Notably accompanying Lieutenant General Maurice Baril and Raymond Chrétien to Zaire in November 1996, when photographs provided the media were revealed to show the faces of JTF2 forces. They were redacted and reissued with the faces removed. In 1998, they accompanied General Romeo Dallaire to Tanzania, where he was due to testify against a Rwandan Hutu official accused of complicity in the 1994 genocide. They similarly accompanied war crimes prosecutor Louis Arbour into Kosovo, etc., etc., etc. So like there's lots of examples of this force being used outside of Canada, but fewer, and Winter Olympics, of them being used as a domestic force. So that's the best explanation I have based on the information that I've gathered around my sources today. But this is interesting. I mentioned earlier, this isn't how a security force typically behaves. They usually are invisible until they have to be visible, right? And you can usually pick one or two or three of them out of the crowd if you know what you're looking for. But if you don't know what you're looking for, the idea is that you don't know that they're there. Even if you do know what you're looking for, the idea is you don't know that they're there. This looks like a big show, right? And it just seems odd, doesn't it? It just seems strange to me. The whole thing. Oh, that's the same picture. But it's a weird, and I guess it's all the same picture. Weird. It just seems strange to me. Here is the middle story for this midday Thanksgiving video. And while Catherine McKenna is saying Islamophobia and rise of hate crimes, rise of the alt-right is incredibly worrisome against Muslims, blacks, Jews, and LGBTQ people. Our government has added alt-right groups to its list of terrorist organizations. We'll continue working with you and making sure you're safe. Except that this is their boss. Like, this is Justin Trudeau, and that was supposed to just be an image, but this is the leader of the party who's repeatedly photographed in blackface. And I mean, there's other countless scandals that are going on, SNC, Gropegate, and the like, that, I mean, the leader of the Liberal Party needs to understand that people are sick and tired of, right? And Catherine McKenna, well, it's tone deaf in claiming that the moral high road when you've got a leader who looks like that, right? Right? Yeah. Irresponsible, G7 leader. The last story for this morning, here's Pierre Poilievre, and he's tweeting out the same video that I used in my show yesterday. And again, I say, this is a savage takedown of the 4 years of failure under Trudeau, and it places the blame squarely on Trudeau's shoulders. There's no denying this video, the hand that Trudeau played in all of the failures personally. I mean, this doesn't even bring up the Phoenix pay system, which he said that he would personally intervene in 2016 in front of two smiling liberal people that I've never seen since. And again, the USMCA was handled terribly. All Donald Trump was asking for was the same amount of milk as the TPP granted in that trade deal, and Justin Trudeau, and to stop dealing with Chrystia Freeland, and Justin Trudeau ignored both of those things, eventually relenting with milk, but issuing or getting language in there that makes it look like the agreement will never be ratified. Who knows, though? I don't know. So this takedown is a savage takedown, and it doesn't even unload all of the ammunition. Interesting that CBC decided to sue the Conservative Party to maintain their, what did they call it? The negatively impacting the perceptions of their independence. Right. Except that in 2015, the Liberals used a minute of CBC debate footage, and they weren't sued. So here's the tweet that is referencing that, and the ad that shows the minute of CBC footage. It says the Liberal Party used over 1 minute of CBC debate footage in an ad in 2015. Why weren't they sued by the CBC for copyright infringement then? Hashtag media bias. Here's the statement from CBC. It says, quote, statement from Jennifer Maguire and Luce Julien, and sorry if I've got that name wrong or either name wrong. CBC News and Radio Canada have historically and consistently protected our journalistic content and brands from unauthorized use in all circumstances, particularly in advertising and partisan activity. We do this at all times, including during past election campaigns when political parties have threatened the independence of our work and journalists. The independence must be protected as it is directly tied to the trust Canadians place in us and our journalists. This is especially important during an election campaign. Do you think having Rosemary Barton, one of the 5 moderators named in a lawsuit against one of the parties she's supposed to be impartially moderating a debate for, is maybe putting her in a conflict of interest? You didn't think that through, CBC? And you didn't think through the fact that last year the Liberals used a minute of debate footage? You just thought, you know what, we'll go forward with the lawsuit and forget about whether we have an actual chance. You didn't even think about fair use? Like, people can use the news in Canada. That's part of the laws. That's how you're governed. You are funded by taxpayers. You work for us. Okay, back to the article. CBC News journalist Rosemary Barton and John Paul Tasker were named in a legal application filed on Thursday, October 10th by CBC Radio Canada because their images in journalism were misused for partisan purposes, negatively impacting perceptions of their independence. CBC Radio Canada was given no assurance that such misuse would not be repeated, even within this election campaign. So it is therefore critical for us to provide clarity through the court to safeguard the integrity and professional independence of our journalism and our journalists. To be clear, CBC Radio Canada was the driver of this process, not the journalist. CBC Radio Canada named and added the journalists to the application because their images and content were used inappropriately. In order to avoid any confusion about the role of Rosemary Barton and John Paul Tasker, we intend to file an amendment to remove their names as applicants when the court opens on Tuesday. This action is about protecting the interests of journalists and the independence of journalistic content. CBC Radio Canada would do the same for any of our journalists whose journalistic content was misused by any political party. Okay, but misused in whose eyes? And I suppose in the judge's eyes in this case, if you get that far, but I have a feeling there's a stack of evidence against your use of this lawsuit. Really, I mean, I don't think it's going to stand up. I think it's going to get thrown out. Here is Dr. Jacobs saying this gets even uglier. The demand letter from Rosemary Barton to the Conservative Party was sent on the same day as the leaders' debate that she was moderating. You cannot be in the midst of legal action against a party and claim to be a neutral moderator. And I would generally agree with that, particularly, well, and I mean, in light of this, that it could be the fact that the CBC legal team just randomly added Miss Barton's name to this lawsuit, but that would seem odd, don't you think? Does your employer typically embark on lawsuits without letting you know? Or do people generally add you to litigious declarations or lawsuits without your knowledge? I mean, presumably, Rosemary Barton would have known on the 7th when this letter was sent that, one, she was moderating the English debate, and two, that she would be named in this lawsuit. So that's a conflict of interest. Here's the lawsuit. It says, number 56 says CBC Radio Canada Law Department sent demand letters on October 7th and October 8th in relation to the infringing material. Despite acknowledging receipt of the letters, the respondents did not respond or otherwise act. And I believe that they did take down the video, so that's interesting. Here's Peter Mansbridge weighing in, and he says, a ridiculous situation at the CBC this weekend. At Rosie Barton is being targeted by trolls for something she had nothing to do with, while the CBC lawyers who engineered this mess enjoy their weekend. Ignore the noise, Rosie, and focus on the job you do so well. And, well, there's been a lot of journalists saying, I'm not a troll, and this is inappropriate. And generally, again, I say your employer doesn't frivolously put your name to lawsuits that in the middle of an election campaign that could be, I mean, explosive, especially putting you in that conflict of interest, even in the perception of, even in the public perception. That's irresponsible of the legal team. Really, it's wildly irresponsible. Here's Ezra Levent, and Ezra, like I said, Ezra did a big thread on the other story I covered this morning. So here's his opinion on this one. He says, hang on. She had nothing to do with it? She's a plaintiff. She had everything to do with it. She approved the lawsuit. She agreed to it in advance, secretly, while still presuming to moderate a debate that included the people she's suing. Weird, right? This is Canada. This is our journalists. These are our journalists. These are our court systems. These people think that this is okay. This is wildly inappropriate. Unbelievably inappropriate. And whether it was Miss Barton herself or just the legal team acting on her behalf or whatever, all of that should have been taken into consideration before this came out during an election campaign, before it was even put into motion during an election campaign. They should have really checked to see if they could use those things, regardless of the intent of those things. I mean, I don't think there's much misunderstanding this video. Like, this video is, as I've said many times before, savage. And I don't think it's out of context. I don't think it's lying. So, how else to get it shut down? Well, our journalistic integrity, our balance is in question. Yes, CBC, your balance has been in question for a while. Got a couple of $1 billion, $600 million, $1 billion here, still selling ads. Your journalistic integrity is in the toilet, CBC. And, I mean, this isn't helping. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Voting day is October 21st. I hope you get out and vote. There are polls, early polls open right now, 9:30 to 9:30 in my riding, and tomorrow as well. So happy Thanksgiving to the election workers who are selflessly giving their time to run this. And shout out to everybody who's making time in their holiday to go out and vote, in exercising your voice. So get out there today, tomorrow, or on the 21st. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.